This is Danny Martin, and I'd like to welcome you to a 21-day immersion program on mindfulness dialogue. The goal of the program is to present the theory and skills of mindfulness dialogue in simple ways that can be applied and practiced immediately in your life. But let me begin with a short definition of mindfulness dialogue and a rationale for this program. First, mindfulness dialogue is what I would describe as deeper and more skillful interaction with others, certainly, but also with yourself and especially with the world we share. And second, I believe that we need deeper interaction more than anything else today in order to address our present challenges and learn to live more creatively in our increasingly complex world. Mindfulness dialogue reflects and serves this fundamental need. Mindfulness enables us to be more present, compassionate, aware, and open to the world, while dialogue helps us to understand and generate new shared meaning and commitment for living in this world. The 21 days of the program will be broken up into 3 week-long stages that reflect the 3 stages of a mindfulness dialogue process, which are connecting, exploring, and discovering, that you will learn about more as we proceed. Each day of the program will consist of a short 15-minute recording like this one that will include a reflection, a meditation, and suggestions for application throughout the day, and, as a suggestion, a short 5-minute journaling at the end of the day to capture anything you noticed. Another suggestion is at the end of each of the 3 weeks to find 1 or 2 others from the group you are part of, your email group, and talk, either text, FaceTime, or face-to-face, about the experience of the week. The focus of this first week of the program is connecting, which, as I noted, is stage 1 of a mindfulness dialogue process. So each reflection, meditation this week will engage us in an aspect of connecting to ourselves, to each other, and to the world we live in. Today's theme I'm calling Making Space. Let me begin with a piece by a 13th century Persian poet whom we know as Rumi. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. I believe we actually live in 2 worlds, the real world and an illusory world of our own making. The real world is essentially a living reality, an interconnected, symbiotic, emerging being that holds and informs everything, from the galaxies to you and me, a world of interbeing. It is the world of Rumi's field that we've all experienced at some time in our lives, certainly as children, though perhaps also when we fell in love or became a parent. It's the world that breaks in on our seriousness, filling us with the unexpected joy of a sunrise or a spring flower. But it's also the world that reveals itself to us when things fall apart and cool, unlying life comes rushing in, and we remember what's really important and who we really are. It's a world that, as Rumi says, is beyond our capacity to understand or even talk about, but that we know to be more real than the things that fill our waking hours. For there is also another world, as I said, an illusory world born of our own limited understanding that believes it is made up of separate individuals competing for survival in a random universe. Unfortunately, this illusory world of separateness and struggle has come to dominate, generating increasing anxiety, which manifests in the many ways we know, from injustice to violence to dis-ease at every level of our lives. And now this illusory world, with its insistent and unsustainable assumptions about growth and control, threatens to destroy us. So experiencing the real world again and learning how to live in this world has to be our essential and primary goal. Mindfulness dialogue is a method for moving in this direction by helping us connect with and experience the real world again. Then explore this experience in order to understand it better, and finally discover how to live more appropriately in this world. This is actually a very radical approach to the challenges we face, and it will take commitment and time. But first of all, it will take space. We will have to begin this critical work by making space in the busy lives that the illusory world has created for us, a kind of experimental laboratory space where we can learn how to see and live differently. In doing this, we are actually following an ancient, well-worn path taken by many before us. For in every culture from the earliest times, there have been those who have committed themselves to making space like this. Ironically, as our human capacity to control our environment developed, and along with it, the illusion of the separate competing individual that it fostered, this became a kind of countercultural movement. The monastic tradition was one such form that consisted essentially of making space, internal and external, in order to stay in touch with the deeper awareness of the real world that the developing culture of control threatened to suppress. It made this space by stepping away physically from the culture of the day in order to be able to retain and cultivate what was essential, and also to see more clearly what to integrate and what to avoid from the new experiences and new knowledge. That is exactly what we need to do today. Making space, literally, meant stepping out of the systems that the culture had devised as the norm. But more important, it meant stepping out of the thinking and the underpinning assumptions that had become internalized in the culture's structures. Hence the various practices of quieting the mind and focusing attention in order to see and hear more clearly, and more clearly without the mostly unconscious judgments that tend to reinforce the existing collective assumptions. These folks were the reminders, prophets, wisdom keepers, and teachers for their society, though often these societies saw them as threats to the culture and treated them accordingly. We have, of course, such reminder prophets today, mostly in the world of the arts. However, as religion and the traditional monastic forms have ceased to have the same impact as before. But these reminder prophets are also in the world of science, whose findings confirm in many ways, in many cases, intuitions from these older traditions. Mindfulness dialogue is part of this critical aspect of society that we might call contemplative. For the word contemplative simply refers to seeing more deeply. And just as the early forms of this reminder prophetic wisdom teacher part of society made space for this to happen, we also have to create internal and external space in order to experience more directly and understand more deeply the world beneath our illusions. Making space is a matter of intention and decision. In the increasingly busy world of our culture, it means literally setting aside and coming aside. You don't have to go to the wilderness or the desert like the monks of old, but you can go for a walk. You don't have to build a monastery, but you do have to create a quiet corner where you can step aside for a while. You don't have to rise in the early hours to chant prayers, but you do have to take a few moments every day when you can deliberately pay attention. And finally, you don't have to live by a monastic bell, but you do have to create your own simple rituals that will remind you of your intention when you inevitably forget. The poet Mary Oliver says it well. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. The point is, though, that you do have to make this space where you can be present and pay attention. In fact, the real world is actually waiting for us to do so. As Mary Oliver concludes, whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Making space like this in order to allow the world to offer itself to your imagination and to remind you again of your place in the family of things is a critical part of the work of our generation. Making space like this is the first step on a journey back to a truer world, a truer self, and a truer way of living that we all, no matter how lonely, know is still there, no matter how faded in our collective memory. So to get us started, let me offer you a simple mindfulness meditation for making space. Position yourself comfortably, relaxed but alert. Your back straight, hands in your lap, eyes closed or softened. This will help you to go within to a deeper place. Take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. Then breathe normally. In your mind, softly say the theme of today like a mantra, making space. Follow your breath as it moves in and out. When thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, simply notice them and let them go. Think of them as clouds passing in a clear blue sky. Make space. Do this for a few moments. Now gently return to the present moment, to the place where you are, and when you are ready, open your eyes. Feel the connection to the space, the presence, and the calmness that surrounds you. It's a simple exercise you can practice longer if you wish, but this is just a taste of it. And as far as other ways of making this space throughout the day, we could do this. Start with an intention. Commit to listening to the short recording you'll receive every day, ideally at a time that will serve your learning process. This will help form a habit, I think, of making daily space. In a similar way, the 5-minute journaling commitment at the end of the day can become another form of making space that may continue afterwards. You might develop this space just a little by deciding on the same chair for listening to the recording or writing in your journal. You might find that it helps to light a candle. Of course, you could use the recording on a walk that might also continue afterwards as a regular practice. And finally, you might find yourself bringing little discoveries to this space, a stone you find on a walk, a piece of poetry that has impacted. All of these are simple but important ways for making this space we need to create the real change we need in our world today. So let me offer a final thought, and it's this. When we cultivate something, a plant, an idea, it grows. If we cultivate this kind of space in our daily lives, it will grow for us and in us. In time, it may become our world. Our intention in this first week is to cultivate our experience of the real world so that we can begin the work of addressing the challenges of our lives in that world. We will be able to direct this deliberate connecting to our lives in 2 ways. As stage 1 of a mindfulness dialogue model, we can use and apply in many ways. We will come to that later. But just as importantly, as a method for a way of, in fact, living that is truer, more sustainable and creative and more joyful. And who couldn't do with a little more joy in today's world? So best wishes with these first steps, and Bannacht ar an lá seo, which is the Gaelic for blessings on this day.